Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. I'm Joseph Lopez. Let's take a look at the headlines. A call for our own indigenous system of taxation and jurisprudence as the Tax Appeal Board meets for the first time since the opening of the 2014-2015 law term. The Prime Minister attends the United Nations General Assembly in New York and is scheduled to deliver speeches at multiple functions while on her trip. And the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus welcomes in excess of 1,600 new undergraduate students at its 12th matriculation and welcome ceremony. Thank you. And at the top of the news, Trinidad and Tobago should develop its own indigenous system of taxation and jurisprudence. This appeal comes from the Honorable Chairman of the Tax Appeal Court of Trinidad and Tobago, Justice Anthony Gafour, at the first sitting of the Tax Appeal Board for the law term 2014-2015.
While the development of radio, television, air travel, the telephone, and the internet has reduced distances, and while businesses increasingly regard the world as a single marketplace, Chairman of the Tax Appeal Court of Trinidad and Tobago, Judge Anthony D.J. Gafour, is urging the need for the Tax Appeal Court to become more aware of issues affecting the national, regional, and international communities. Using the post-2008 global financial crisis as an example, Judge Gafour says there needs to be a renewed focus on regulatory regimes as nation-states have retained tax policies developed when countries were geographically and economically isolated. Judge Gafour made the remarks at the first sitting of the Tax Appeal Board for the law term 2014-15.
It will be clear to all that the post-2008 global financial crisis has been a major watershed in financial affairs, causing a renewed focus on regulatory regimes. In Trinidad and Tobago, as you know, we have not escaped the effects of such matters, with various businesses, as well as two significant financial institutions, experiencing a number of challenges, such as to warrant further investigation through commissions of inquiry, that being the Hindu Credit Union, the CLICO affairs.
Speaking of reform of court system, Judge Gafour says, unfortunately, despite various efforts on the court's part, very little has occurred thus far. Some of the reform list included change of name and amendment of the reference provision of rules of the Supreme Court, which was replaced since 2005 with the civil proceedings rules. Judge Gafour added that there were several other pieces of legislation which were a decade old and required modification. But despite this, the Honorable Chairman called for Trinidad and Tobago to develop its own indigenous system of taxation.
Though this court is considered to be the preeminent court of its kind in the Commonwealth Caribbean, and indeed is part of the family of tax courts throughout the world, I also wish at this juncture to enter a plea for us to cast off the remaining shackles of the colonial system, which has bequeathed to us the present tax system with very few modifications. After some 52 years of being an independent nation with our own growing body of regional jurisprudence and our own regional court, it is time for us to develop our own indigenous system of taxation and jurisprudence based on a shrewd assessment of the needs of this society and its linkages to the 21st century Caribbean.
Other shortcomings which the court administration is looking to rectify once funding is available include an operable law library, installing access cards to certain areas of the court precinct, and installing security cameras. The court is also seeking to upgrade technology-wise to assist attorneys in their judicial discharge. Shade Allen, News 4.
Monday marked the first day the Standing Finance Committee sat before the Parliament to overlook the expenditure allocations for fiscal year 2014-2015. Now, under the revised standing orders of the House of Representatives, the Leader of the Opposition can determine the order in which the heads of expenditure are examined when the House resolves into Standing Finance Committee. The order by which proceedings were held in the House Monday was according to the listing the Leader of the Opposition provided to the Speaker of the House to the government. The committee has been given up to 5 days to complete all the hearings on the Appropriation Financial Bill 2014-2015. We'll take a short break. More news when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Bissessar left for New York for a week of events under the auspices of the United Nations, including the 69th UN General Assembly, and will then spend 3 days in Miami, Florida. Now, Mrs. Bissessar will deliver a statement at the Leaders Forum on Women Leading the Way, Rising Ambition for Climate Action at the special session of the International Conference on Population and Development Beyond 2014. The 69th UN General Assembly will feature former Chile President, former Ireland President, former Angola First Lady, plus 7 other state leaders including Australia former Prime Minister and former President of Malawi. This event aims to show women's leadership on climate action and highlight gender-responsive actions to all levels. It will feature voices of women leaders representing youth, grassroots and indigenous communities and promote gender equality at the center of the talks on climate change and sustainable development in the post-2015 development agenda in the lead-up to the Beijing Plus 20 commemoration next year. Today, the Prime Minister will speak at the United Nations Climate Summit, hosted by UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon. The summit seeks to engage leaders, advance climate action and ambition, and promote talks on solutions to reduce emissions and strengthen resilience. The Prime Minister then joins a panel with other world leaders at the high-level dialogue on employment and decent work for inclusive and sustainable development, co-hosted by the ILO and the Ford Foundation. Mrs. Bissessar's trip also serves to promote Trinidad and Tobago as a destination for investment. On Thursday, she will give the keynote address at the TT Investment Conference, whose sessions will explore existing investment opportunities and the potential for economic diversification. The Prime Minister will be accompanied by Trade Minister Senator Vasant Bharath, Planning Minister Bohindradat Tiwari, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs Winston Dukaran. In addition, selected events will be attended by Finance Minister Larry Hawaii, Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine, and Minister of National Diversity and Social Integration Roger Samuel. The Prime Minister will also meet groups of Trinidad and Tobago nationals in recognition of Republic Day at events hosted by the TNT Consulate General in New York. On Friday, the Prime Minister will attend a cocktail reception, and on Saturday she will address a gala reception and dinner. Mrs. Bissessar has highlighted on several occasions Trinidad and Tobago's desire to host the Arms Trade Treaty ATT Secretariat in Port of Spain, and as such, the TNT delegation is looking forward to 50 countries ratifying the treaty for it to come into effect. Labour Minister Errol MacLeod will act as Prime Minister during the absence of Mrs. Bissessar, who is expected to return on Wednesday, October 1st. In other news, the Association of Caribbean States Committee is seeking to strengthen regional cooperation and integration processes to preserve environmental integrity of the Caribbean while promoting sustainable development for the Greater Caribbean. This objective set the mandate for the 22nd meeting of the Special Committee for Disaster Risk Reduction held recently.
The Association of Caribbean States, the ACS convention, established on July 24, 1994 in Colombia, is made up of 26 member states who have the right to participate in discussions, which concentrate on trade, transport, sustainable tourism, and disaster risk reduction in the Caribbean. The meeting held at the ACS Secretariat in Port of Spain this week did just this, as the Association of Caribbean States, through the Directorate of Disaster Risk Reduction, hosted the 22nd meeting of the Special Committee. The meeting commenced with remarks from the Minister of Planning and Sustainable Development, Senator the Honorable Dr. Bohindradat Tiwari, who noted that identifying, averting, reducing and managing risks responsibly and effectively saves lives, averts economic losses, reduces social, economic and environmental impacts of disaster, prevents developmental setbacks and unleashes opportunities.
Small island developing states face high levels of disaster risk, have comparatively low economic resilience, and have high or extreme levels of environmental vulnerability. Between 2000 and 2011, it is conservatively estimated that between 110 and 187 disasters caused by various hazards affected the countries in the Pacific and Caribbean regions respectively. So you had about 110 of them during that decade in the Pacific and 187 of them in the Caribbean.
This, then, is what makes the meeting important to the public at large, as the threat of natural disasters being very much real and knocking on our shores proves to be a threat that is not only of national concern but also of regional concern.
Given their small size, individual hazard events such as cyclones and earthquakes often affect an entire territory and economy. As such, disasters can destroy decades of capital investment and hard-fought development gains, often followed by slow and costly recovery. The increased indebtedness and constrained fiscal space can have long-term developmental consequences.
Senator the Honorable Dr. Bundra Tiwari continued to present priority action methods that member states should follow as they all work, collaborate, and anticipate together to address these threats and ensure the well-being of their countries and Caribbean at large.
In terms of priority actions going forward, and which is identified by the Hyogo Framework for Action, HFA, these are the things that have been identified. Priority action 1, to ensure that disaster risk reduction is a national and a local priority with a strong institutional base for implementation. Priority action 2, identify, assess, and monitor disaster risks and enhance early warning through various systems. Priority action 3, to use knowledge, innovation, and education to build a culture of safety and resilience at all levels, preventative. Priority action 4, reduce the underlying risk factors in the first place. And priority action 5, strengthen disaster preparedness for effective response at all levels.
The Director of Transport and Disaster Risk Reduction of the ACS, Mr. George Nicholson, noted that persons can feel a sense of relief knowing that in the event of a natural disaster, countries would not be entirely left to stand alone. The ACS is working on behalf of the public and involved in regional discussions to develop and strategize the best responses to the threat of natural disasters, all for the benefit and protection of Caribbean people. Shade Allen, News 4.
Sport news is on the other side of the break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. The highly anticipated start of the 2014-2015 TT Pro League season was a grim affair for Central FC, going down 1-0 to W Connection in the Charity Shield on Saturday at the Atterbolton Stadium. Wayne Cunningham was there and he has the highlights from Couva.
The Digicel Charity Shield kicks off the new season of the TT Pro League, and in the 2014 edition, regulars DirecTV W Connection met first-time Charity Shield participants Central FC, with the usual Pro League rhythms in place. The W Connection men were in their third consecutive Charity Shield and were seeking a third straight triumph, but they were without some key players from last season due to international transfers. They include the likes of Jovin and Alvin Jones, Daniel Cyrus, Stefano Rizal, and Neil Benjamin Jr. Despite that, they had the first real try at goal, Akil Campbell hitting the net support post. Central FC also had a new look to their starting lineup to go along with their new coach. Zoran Vranic surrounded himself with familiar faces by employing some of the key players from his Under-20 World Cup squad. Leston Paul, Jean-Luc Rochefort, Queens Grosvenor, and Sean De Silva all in the starting lineup. But the strangest sight of all was seeing veteran midfielder Marvin Oliver in the sweeper position. And honestly, he looked comfortable throughout the match. It was the always tactically solid Grosvenor testing Jelani Archibald in the connection goal as the match neared the half-hour mark. The Savanetta boys, though, were looking the more dangerous outfit as the half progressed. And they capitalized in full 6 minutes from the break. Following this quick throw-in from Jarrell Brito, Hashim Arcia weaves his way into the central penalty area and beats Jean-Michael Williams to make it 1-0.
Connection.
The national senior men's team keeper would not wish to see this again. But we will show it anyway, as Arcia beats him at the first post with a low-caliber shot. Williams had to be on his game soon after to keep out this one from the free shooting Campbell just before the interval. Jean-Michael was still busy in the second half. This deflected effort from De Silva had Archibald doing some work as well. But it was not to be, as referee Rodfin Harris blows the final whistle. Derby Connection captures its third successive Charity Shield with the 1-0 win. And for the second season in a row, Hashim Arcia was adjudged the most valuable player of the season's opener. He received his trophy from Zinzi Renee Williams of Digicel and Julia Batiste of the TT Pro League. Derby Connection starting where they left off last season with another piece for the trophy cabinet in Savanetta. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
Thank you, Wayne. We'll take a break. You're with News 4. Welcome back. The University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus inducted over 1,600 new undergraduate students at its 12th matriculation and welcome ceremony at the JFK Quadrangle. Now, after a 30-year hiatus, the matriculation and welcome ceremony was reinstated in 2012 under then-campus principal Dr. Bohindradat Tiwari and has been a mainstay on the campus calendar at the start of each academic year. The UWI matriculation and welcome ceremony event is marked by the signing of the register, the recital of the academic vow and the official welcome by Chair of Campus Register, Mr. Richard Saunders.
I solemnly promise that, as a member of the University of the West Indies, I will strive to follow the ideals of academic life.
It is seen as a momentous occasion for the university and its new students, as it is the only time of the academic year, apart from graduation ceremony, that a full academic procession takes place.
It is great to see you all. Based on our records for this academic year, over 17,000 have registered with the university for courses ranging from diploma, certificate, bachelor's degree, and postgraduate degrees, including MSc, MPhil, and PhD. As university students, you belong to a class of well-qualified, talented, and privileged group who have earned by your academic achievement the right to become students, members of this outstanding regional university.
This year, the ceremony featured an address to students from UWI alumna, the Honorable Stacey Rupnarine, MP for Oropouche West, and Minister of State in the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure.
This university played a very critical role, not only academically for me, but also in becoming an all-rounded and disciplined citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. This formed a critical part of my journey to the office which I now hold, and indeed it prepared me well for service to my country.
In his keynote address, Cultural Ambassador and noted entertainer Kestif Antala underscored the university's commitment to acknowledging the milestones achieved in academic life.
I'm going to be honest. When I was called to give this speech, my first thought was, what can I say to these young minds that will plant seeds to grow fruit? I mean, let's be real. I sing songs and whine on stages right around the world. But I have attended and excelled both in Presentation College, San Fernando, and St. Mary's College, Port of Spain. Yes, worked very hard, but never experienced university life. I just lived it through my peers and always imagined what it was like. But then I thought, I did go to university, the university of life, the university of hard work, the university of making your dreams literally come true.
Delivering the featured address, Pro Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal, Professor Clement Sankat, formally welcomed all new students and highlighted the university's commitment to widening the opportunities for a quality university education for persons throughout the region. He noted these opportunities has led to an increase in enrollment, greater options for academic programs, new research projects alongside the expansion of campus facilities.
This is what the UWI is about, and this is what distinguishes us from all others. At the UWI, we are about producing leaders. And there is leadership in each and every one of you gathered here. Few other universities around the world can boast of having produced so many graduates who hold leadership positions in the Caribbean and internationally. Last year, at this very ceremony, the featured speaker was His Excellency Anthony Carmona, a graduate of the UWI.
For this 12th ceremony, Carrier Quash, a student of the Faculty of Food and Agriculture, and campus signed the symbolic register on behalf of all new students and faculty. News 4 understands that at one time, all students signed this register, but given the marked increase in the matriculating students over the years, one student is selected annually to sign the register on behalf of his or her peers. Since its inception in 1948, the University of the West Indies has evolved from a college in Jamaica with 33 students to a full-fledged regional university with over 40,000 students. Today, the University of the West Indies is the largest, most long-standing higher education provider in the Commonwealth Caribbean, with 4 campuses in Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Open Campus. And that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 Report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. Remember, you can view a repeat of our newscast weekdays at 6 a.m. and feel free to visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/OurTV4, and you can visit our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheGISLTD. I'm Joseph Lopez. Thank you for watching.